Hey, welcome back, race fans. We got Ted Hough here from the World Challenge Series, Pirelli, driving the Mazda 2 of Breathless Racing. And had a great weekend, COTA, but we want to know, who is Ted Hough?
That's kind of a complicated and nuanced question, actually. I'm just kind of an average high school kid, really. I grew up just loving motorsports. It was kind of hard for me to settle down as a kid. I was always, kind of hyperactive until I realized what a race car was. And then, around 3 or 4, Dad started taking me down to the local stock car track at Elko Speedway. Would watch the demolition derbies, and they would have monster trucks, and they would have just awesome stock car racing. So my whole childhood was just centered around watching local races and watching races on TV. Figuring out how to watch everything I could on
Sure.
TV, and eventually, internet streaming became a thing when I was a teenager. So I just got right on that. So my whole life has just been stock cars, endurance racing, formula racing, amateur series, pro series, just everything I can get my hands on. I really like to be a fan first. It really keeps racing fun. So when I started doing it when I was around 11 or 12, I really had no expectations. And then I won the Bandolero Championship my
Sure.
first year, and then moved into a Legends car, and started going around trying national races, bunches of top fives in local championships. I won 2 state championships in a row. And started looking, where's the next place? Where am I gonna be? So started looking for people. Went up north to Brainerd International Raceway and
Sure.
did Gary Curtis's driving school, and now I'm a pro road racer.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. I had the races last weekend at COTA, 2 races actually that weekend, and both turned out fairly well.
Yeah, I screwed up the starts in both. So full disclosure, just disclaimer right away. First race I was given misinformation from one of the race stewards. I was told there was a restart box, and instead we used the normal road course racing rule. The rolling start goes on green.
Right.
And then the second race was a standing start. And I got backed up into higher class traffic as everybody got bottled up for the first corner. So I ended up losing about 7 positions on the start in the first race and around 4 or 5 on the second race. But in each instance, I managed to fight my way back up to the front. So I managed to chase down Will Rogers in race 1 with about 10 minutes to go and size him up. Made a move on the last corner. Managed to almost get by for the win. I lost by 0.144 of a second.
Wow.
But he ended up being disqualified on a technical infringement later. So I won my first pro race. So that was a huge relief to me. It felt really good to know I had the fastest car and capitalized on it. And then in race 2, it turns out I had set the fastest lap in race 1, so I had the pole again. Again, screwed up the start. And had to fight my way back up front, but by then everybody had kind of figured out what they were doing. And TCB cars have no power, and we were at COTA, which has a very long back straight, so it was very draft dependent.
Yep.
I could not break the draft as fast as Will Rogers did, and he managed to get in front of everybody. And during the fighting, I had my left-hand door mirror knocked out, so
Nope.
I made a mistake yielding to higher class traffic with about 10 minutes left, and gave up second place to Tom O'Gorman and Will Morse behind him, and ended up stuck in 4th for the rest of the race. Again, made the same move on the last corner, almost got 2 podia, but couldn't quite make it across the line in front of Morse. So a 1st and a 4th for my first weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely tough being different classes and the different variants of speed with the different cars. You're looking at your mirrors all the time.
Yeah. The important thing is to remember that as a young and relatively inexperienced racer, a lot of the higher class cars are going to use you up if you're alone. Mm-hmm. So you have to use traffic to your advantage, especially when you're in a group and you're racing other people. When you're not one car and you're too deep, too wide, you take up a lot more track. So you really have to make sure that you're in there, you're being aggressive, that you're shutting the door when people look like they're looking to make kind of a bonehead move and get in there when it's not their place. And they'll respect that, but when you're alone, you just have to learn how to yield. Be thinking 20 or 30 seconds ahead of what you're doing absolutely all the time. Foresight is key in cars like these, especially being in the slowest car class with such high closing rates.
Right. All right, Ted, moving ahead to Mosport. Next on the list coming up here for you.
Yeah, I think Mosport's going to be a difficult circuit. I think one of the interesting things we're going to see is the TCB racing being a lot cleaner because it doesn't have modern paved runoffs like COTA does.
Sure.
So you can't force other drivers wide and get away with it. And the pace is going to be a little bit more indicative for practice and qualifying. I know a lot of times we're disallowed because of corner cutting. You really can't do that at most sport. There's no way to gain time by going four wheels off in the grass because there aren't these big, wide, flat painted curbs. And there's walls right there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and a lot of crazy elevation change. So I think you're going to have to be very brave. I think you're going to have to be very technically adept. I think it's going to take a lot of precision and consistency to be fast there, and that's where I'm looking to get an edge on maybe some of the more inexperienced drivers.
Right. Awesome. Sounds great. Now moving ahead, or looking ahead, I should say, where do you see yourself in, say, 5 years from now?
Well, ideally, I want to be either racing with a factory GT team in the States or overseas, hitting endurance racing, or maybe doing German touring cars or Japanese touring car championship. Or if I am not fast enough to be in a racing role, I would love to see myself in a testing role with a factory team, either testing production-based sports cars or new GT3 equipment for the endurance racing scene.
Awesome. Great goals. Hey, I appreciate your time here, Weber, in 60 seconds.
No problem.
And maybe we'll have you back then once you come back from Canada, see how that race goes.
That sounds like it's going to be a ton of fun.
Awesome. Thanks again. It's Ted from the World Pirelli Challenge Series.